Professor Goodwin, I'll start with you. This Missouri law seems to ignore circumstances Republicans don't want to see, like an abusive marriage or a pregnancy within a marriage that might not have been consensual, no?
That's right. And they get it straight from Justice Alito's opinion in the Dobbs case. Justice Alito cites legal scholars who supported and wrote about marital rape as being non-existent because a woman is the property of her husband and therefore is one with him, and a person can't rape himself. Marital rape laws stood in the United States up until just a couple decades ago. A man could rape his wife and not be punished for it. The same was true in cases of incest. There were fathers that were able to defend themselves against cases of incest because for a father to be punished under such for committing such egregious crimes, it would create disharmony in his household. And so the absurdity of all of this, you are so absolutely right. And what's so tragic about it is that it's been baked into American law, and even most recently given support in the Dobbs decision, at least by the way that Justice Alito cites these arcane lawyers who, supported these arcane principles, barbaric principles.
And Professor Ziegler, here's the irony of ironies. According to a Missouri lawyer quoted in the Riverfront Times, the whole basis for Missouri putting the pause on a divorce proceeding until a child is born is because Missouri law, quote, does not see fetuses as humans. But for the purpose of Missouri abortion law, they are seen as human?
Yeah, one of the things that we see coming out of this is that really since the 60s, the anti-abortion movement has been a personhood movement, but no one really worked out exactly what that meant, right? No one figured out how it would be enforced. No one figured out exactly what kind of rights personhood would confer, which is why we're seeing all of these different challenges pop up where people are saying, okay, well, if a fetus is a person, then does that mean I get child support when I'm pregnant? Does that mean I get to drive in the HOV lane? Does that mean I get to have a divorce when I want? And the answer in state law is who knows, right? Because the focus has been on criminalizing abortion and sending doctors and people who help them to prison. And the rest of the story, I think, has been left with significant gaps.
And Professor Goodwin, we understand the desire to want to take action, but some of the solutions being proposed could backfire. A 1948 statute called the Assimilative Crimes Act says the federal government can prosecute state crimes committed on federal property within that state if there is no federal law authorizing such activity. So what would a Republican administration do? And could it do so retroactively?
Here's the tension, is that there are real urgent needs in these spaces. Lives are at risk. We have incredibly high maternal mortality and morbidity rates in the United States. So those that are seeking solutions are recognizing that literally there are people who are suffering and dying now and want to provide relief for them. And they're pushed to do so for medical ethics reasons. We can understand that. And the challenge that even you've presented in your writings is that, well, what happens when a Democratic administration is gone and a Republican administration is in place? And some say, well, let's just wait until that time and save the lives that are necessary to save today and wait about that tomorrow. I think one other point is that our courts are unsteady now. The rule of law is unsteady now after this Dobbs decision. The Supreme Court has said that stare decisis is not a principle that they're willing to uphold. Privacy isn't one that they're willing to uphold. And that's what also makes it a challenge. If these issues come to court, we have no certainty how courts will decide given this Supreme Court.
We don't know how the courts are going to decide given the Supreme Court, but also those lower court judges, conservative judges, and how they might rule. Professor Ziegler, what worries you the most in this legal Wild West that we're in? Are there opportunities for, say, civil disobedience to change public opinion or the laws themselves?
Yeah, I mean, I think what worries me most is not just what we're likely to see from conservative judges, but the uncertainty it's creating, because that's adding a layer of danger for patients. As Michelle described, doctors operating in an environment of uncertainty are going to be afraid to treat patients, even patients who would be eligible for life-saving care under, very restrictive state laws. So I think this is an area where we're also seeing supporters of reproductive rights and justice looking for ways to add clarity for patients and for doctors, so even more unnecessary tragedies don't occur. Having said that, I think we know that civil disobedience does make a difference. Many of the relevant actors here are politicians some of whom may be true believers, many of whom are not in this for that reason, and are doing this quite simply to send the message that they think they can, right? They think there are no consequences. And so I think we've seen impressive mobilizations on the right of very impassioned but relatively small minorities. We know there's a majority of progressives who support abortion rights. So I think that an equally impressive mobilization would obviously be really powerful.